So now we'll go from the mild technique to the wild, which is a wake initiated lucid dream. And so this one is definitely still beneficial for both people who are very advanced in the practice and people who are just starting out. And actually for this technique in particular, I feel it's even better for people who are more advanced with the practice because, you know, for me, this is still a tricky one for me to pull off. This is essentially where you witness the transition from being fully awake and going directly into REM, but really you're gonna pass through stage 1 hypnagogia first. So it's really going from stage 1 of sleep directly into REM. And you know, this happens to me in really a couple different ways, where the best way to have the full-on wild experience, which is honestly no bullshit, one of the coolest experiences to have in your whole life if you can actually witness it in like the full-on way. So the full-on way, at least the only full-on way it happens for me, is when I'm either, well, basically fully awake. So the best would be like for me going from like, you know, initially falling asleep for the night, or even also after doing like a full-on wake back to bed technique where I've been awake for an hour or so, I'm completely awake, and then drifting back off to sleep, where you can actually witness these mental images and thoughts that are coming up. So you're basically, at some point, you're in stage 1, right? Hypnagogic liminal space. But it's more like you're watching it. Then once you slip into actual REM, you can have these really crazy, intense, like body high feelings of being like sucked into it. And it's just really cool. It's kind of like ineffable. It's impossible to describe until you really have it. And to have those is always awesome. A lot of times too, you can have like the out of body experiences where you can feel yourself sleeping. You can like feel like you're sitting up out of your body. That part is really cool too. Although even for that, a lot of times, I mean, that's almost, I guess I would still consider that a wild, but because you don't actually witness, at least for me, the actual transition time of when I actually fell asleep and can go ahead and sit up out of my body, and I missed that exact moment, I almost wouldn't call that a wild. You know, it seems like it's kind of just missed it. And in the same sense, the way I typically have wilds, and I guess in some sense you could consider this a wild, but I really only consider it a wild if I have that crazy body high trippy sensation, or if I'm sitting up out of my body, because that doesn't happen to me very often either. And when that does happen, it's fucking cool as hell. But the way it happens a lot for me is if I wake up and I do my regular like kind of wake back to bed technique, which hopefully I'll post that video before I post this one, but I'll do like a modified version of it where I'll set an alarm, I'll get up in the middle of the night, turn my phone off, and instead of staying awake for like 20 minutes to an hour, I just try to immediately recall the dream I was in and try to slip straight back into dreaming as fast as possible, right? So when I do that technique, which I do pretty often, a lot of times the transition, I don't know if I'm just missing it, but like I'll be seeing this hypnagogic imagery, and then all of a sudden I'm just back in the dream, but it doesn't have the same cool body high, suck in feeling, or it doesn't have that same cool vibe of like rising up out of the body, at least not for me, because every time I do it this way, I'm not dreaming of me being in the room, I'm dreaming of me being in the dream space. Where another way that while it's happening a lot for me too, actually, is when I'm having insomnia, right? So I end up at some point thinking I'm stuck awake, but I'm actually dreaming of myself being in bed stuck awake. So sometimes that can lead to cool kind of wild-like experiences. But again, I'll typically miss that transition. I'll just realize, oh wait, you know, I actually am sleeping. Then like I thought like in one, I thought my wife was taking a shower, and I was thinking like, what are you showering for at like, you know, 1 or 2 in the morning? So then I got up to go check it out. And then at that point, I realized I was getting, wait, I am dreaming. And then, you know, I went to check out the house to see like, am I really in my house? My neighbor ended up coming in too, and he told me he lost his car and shit. And basically it just got totally dreamland, and it was like a typical lucid dream. But it was a very cool intro into the dream. But again, because I missed that exact switching moment, personally, I wouldn't consider that a wild. But yeah, wilds are awesome. They don't happen to me all that often. I hope that all of you out there can at least have one of the full blast versions of them once in your life. It's definitely something worth pursuing. And I think if you ever had one, especially if you're someone who's not too much into this dream shit, that will change your life around, because that's a great way to realize how truly powerful and ineffable, you know, this dream world, this liminal dream space and all that can really be.